Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. If you're in the New York, if you're in the New York, you're in the New York area. There's a little bit of storms the past couple of days. Today's supposed to be somewhat better. I'm not sure. Anyways, today is the fourth Perek of Basra. Today she is the initials Aranach and Simcha Kohen Yishomach of Hashem Sabrach Savish Molib and Miriam Moshe Ben Yosef made the Hashem will have an Aliyah and before Shem if you Sabrach Aliyah Rachel Basra Sada Rachel Aliyah Basra Bracha and of course, to our good friends, sponsored by our good friends at the Imperial Advisory Group, helping businesses with their CFO needs for over 30 years. If your company needs their help, please reach out to them at imperialgrp.com. Here we go. Perek Dalid, Mishnah Aleph. We're talking about the first two Mishnahs. This Perek talking about what's included in the sale of a house. Hamocher, it's Mishnah Aleph. Hamocher sabayis lo machar Yitzie. Someone sells the house, he has not sold the shed that is attached to the wall of the house. Even if it opens into the house, the shed is considered to be a separate structure, and therefore is not included in the sale. In those times, back in the day, it was common to build the shed-like buildings that are attached to the rear walls of the houses, which use as porches or extra rooms. So it's considered a separate property, even though you could enter through it to get into the house. But this is only true only if the shed is larger than 4 square. Smaller sheds are not significant enough to be considered separate properties and are therefore included in the sale of the house. I don't know what the halacha is nowadays. If you have a property and you have a house, and many people have sheds or other structures, usually when you sell the house, you're selling the entire property too, unless you specifically excluded the shed from the sale. Consult the local Orthodox rabbi before you sell your house, and if you have a shed in there. What the halacha is. Nor has he sold the storage room that is within the house itself. Even though the storage room is inside the house, it is not used in the same way as the house, and therefore it is not sold. Nor has he sold the right to use the rooftop for drying fruits or produce if it has a fence or at least 10 tvachim in height surrounding it. The right to use a fenced-in rooftop was sometimes sold separately from the house, and therefore the right to use it is not automatically included in the sale. Rabbi Yehuda says, if there is a doorway leading from the house to the roof, then even if the fence around the roof is not 10 tachim high, the right to use the roof is not sold along with the house. According to Rebbe Yehuda, if there is a doorway to the roof, that's enough to establish the roof as a significant area in its own right, and is therefore not included with the sale of the house. Mishnah Beis, lo as habor, lo as hadus. Someone who sells the house has sold neither the pit nor the cistern that is under the house. Even if he wrote to the buyer in the bill of sale that he was selling him the heights and the depths of the house, even though this clause does not give the seller certain rights in the spaces above and beneath his house, it does not give him, even though the clause gives the seller certain rights in the spaces above and beneath the house, it does not give him separate structures with separate functions or like a pit or a cistern. And the seller must buy himself a path to regain access to his pit. Rabbi Akiva, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva. This is according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that a seller sells with a generous eye, and that he sells his property without holding anything back. Therefore, when he sold the house, he did not keep any rights to the property for himself, even those that he might need later on. So although the pit is still his, he must repurchase the right to access it from the buyer of the house. You're selling, so you want to sell the whole thing, get the biggest bang for your buck. The Chachamim say, he need not buy himself a path to the pit because he never included it in the sale. According to the Chachamim, a seller sells with a stingy eye, holding back any rights that he may require later. Therefore, when he sold the house, he kept the right to access his pit and does not need to purchase a path to it from the buyer. Mother Rabbi Akiva agrees with Man that if the seller said to the buyer, I'm selling you the house except for these items, for these spaces, it does not have to buy itself a path. Since the pit or cistern would not have been sold in any case, we say that he included this extra clause in order to keep a path for himself. I'm selling you only the main house, but not the pit or the cistern. That includes the path too. If someone if he sold the pit or the cistern to another person but kept the house for himself, the rulings are switched. Rabbi Akiva says the buyer does not need to buy himself a path in this case. It's the seller of the pit or cistern sold it with a generous eye and included a path in the sale. Well, the Chachamim said that the buyer must purchase a path because the seller of the pit or cistern sold it with a stingy eye and did not include a path. Mishnah Gimel. Amacher the buyer is macher the delis. If someone sells a house, he has sold the door to the house. Although the door is technically not part of the house, since it's attached to the house, it was made to serve the house, it is included in the sale. But he has not sold the lock, even though it is attached to the door. Since it was common to transfer such locks from one door to another, the owner can take it with him when he leaves, and he does not include it in the sale. Similarly, he has sold the mortar that's cemented to the ground inside the house, because it will be left there. Lois hamitutelas, but not one which is portable, for it could easily be carried away and used elsewhere. Macha as its true bowl. There's a millstone inside the house. Allah is that he sold the mill ring that holds the millstone, for it is attached because that's attached to the ground. Avaloa es kelis. He has not sold the hopper that holds the grain, for it's portable and can easily be taken elsewhere. Lois hatanur, lois hakibra. Nor has he sold the oven or stove that is in the house, because those are also movable. Not easily, but they are movable. They're not fixed to the ground. However, if the seller said to the buyer at the time of the sale, I am selling you the house and everything that is inside it, then all these items are sold along with the house. Mishnah Dal. If someone sells the courtyard, he has also sold the houses that open into the courtyard. As well as the pits, ditches, and vaults that are in the courtyard or in the houses. Because the sale of the courtyard includes the structure in the courtyard as well. But he has not sold the movable items that are located in the courtyard, because these are not considered part of the courtyard. However, if the seller said to the buyer, I'm selling you the courtyard and everything that's inside it, then all these movable items are sold as well. But whether in this case or in that case, whether the seller said in everything that is inside it or not, he has sold neither the bathhouse nor the olive press that is located in the chutzner, because these structures are considered completely separate properties. Rebbe Yehuda says, "Hamacher es a chutzner, lo macher es avirish chutzner." One who sells the courtyard has sold nothing except the open space of the chutzner, in the yard itself. According to Rabbi Lezer, even the houses that open into the courtyard are not included in the sale. Mishnah Hey. Hamocher is Beis Habad. Someone sells an olive press. Macher es yam. He has sold the stone vat that holds the olives during the pressing. That's hamamo. And he sold the mama, which is the stone that is used to crush the olives in the mortar before they are placed into the press. There's habasulos, and the poles that held up the beam that is lowered upon the olives when they are pressed. The vat and poles are fixed to the ground of the olive press building, and they are therefore included in the sale. Although macher is havirim, but he has not sold the boards that are placed on top of the olives in the vat. That's hagalgal, nor has he sold the wheel that is used to raise and lower the beams onto the olives. That's hakora, nor has he sold the beam itself. Although all these things are used during the pressing, they are not attached to the ground, so they are not included in the sale, as the seller can easily take them and use them in another press. But if the seller said to the buyer, I am selling you the olive press and everything that is inside it, then all these things are sold. Rabbi Lezer says, Hamocher as Beis Habad, Mocher as Hakora. If someone sells an olive press, he has always sold the beam, for it is the most important part of the olive press. Mishnah Vav. Hamocher es hamerchatz. Someone sells a bathhouse. Lo macher es hanasarim. He has not sold the boards upon which the bathers would place their clothes. Lo es hafsafsalim. Nor has he sold the benches upon which the bathers would sit. Lo has havilos. Nor has he sold the curtains that are placed across the doorway to the bathhouse to provide privacy. These items are all movable and not part of the bathhouse itself. They are therefore not included in the sale. But if the seller said to the buyer, I'm selling you the bathhouse, everything is inside it, then all these items are sold as well. Whether in this case or in that case, whether the seller said and everything is decided or not, he has sold neither the reservoirs of water that supply the bathhouse, nor has he sold the storehouses of wood that are used to fuel the fires that heat the water. These items are not reserved for the bathhouse, and they are therefore not included in the sale. What if you sell the entire city? Someone sells a city. He sold not only the land of the city itself, but also all the houses that are in the city, along with the pits, ditches, and vaults. He has also sold all the bathhouses and the dovecotes, and the olive presses in the city, and he has also sold the city's gardens and orchards. But he has not sold any of the movable items left in the city, such as portable ovens and mills, for these can be taken away by the seller and used elsewhere. However, if the seller said to the buyer, I'm selling you the city and everything that's inside it, I feel higher about that even if there were animals or slaves left in the city, which can move on their own and can be taken from the city very easily, they are all included in the sale. All movable items that are in the city at the time of the sale are sold with the city if the seller adds this extra clause. Rabbi Yehuda says that mocher es ha'ir, mocher es ha'santa. One who sells the city has always sold the santia along with the city, even if the seller did not add the clause and everything that is in it. And Mishnah Ches, hamocher es ha'sadeh, mocher es ha'avarim. Someone sells a field. He has sold the stones that are reserved for its needs. This refers to loose stones in the field that have been set aside to be used to build a fence around the field. Although these stones are not attached to the ground and are therefore not part of the field itself, they were designated to be used in the field and they will not be removed from there. They are considered part of the field. If there's a vineyard in the field, the vineyard is included in the sale of the field, and he has also sold the reeds in the vineyard that are reserved for its needs. Grapevines would be tied to peel the reeds that were set into the ground to hold the vines up. These reeds are meant to be left in place, holding up the vines permanently, so they are included in the sale. He has also sold the produce of the field that is still attached to the ground at the time of the sale. Although such produce certainly will be removed from the field, as long as it is still attached to the ground, it does not yet have an identity of its own, and is therefore included in the sale. A thicket of reeds that grows within the field is also sold along with it, as long as the area of the thicket is less than a base rova in size. Such a small thicket is not important enough to be viewed as a separate property and is sold as part of the field. A watchman's hut whose walls are not plastered with clay and is also included in the sale, even if it is attached to the ground. And such a hut is not an important structure. That's a charuv, a young carrot tree that has not yet been grafted. That's basulas shikma, and a young sycamore tree are also included in the sale. If they're growing within the field, the young trees of these types are not yet important enough to be considered separate properties. Mishnah test. Avalo machelos havanim she'en l'tzarka. Someone who is selling a field has not sold the detached stones in the field that are not reserved for its use, even though they can be used in the field. Since they have not been set aside for this use, they may still be removed from the field, and therefore they are not included in the mechira. Nor has he sold the reeds in the vineyard that are not reserved for its use. Although the reeds may be used to support the vines, since they have not been set aside for this use, they are not deemed part of the vineyard. Nor has he sold the grain that is detached from the field, even though people would often leave harvested grain spread out in the field to dry. Once the grain is cut, it is no longer considered part of the field and is therefore included in the sale. Bisman, Shama lo, he, but if the seller said to the buyer, I'm selling you the field and everything that's inside it, then all these items are sold with the field. The clause includes movable items with some connection to the field, which would have otherwise been excluded from the sale. Whether this way or that way, whether the seller included the clause and everything that is inside it or not, he has not sold a thicket of reeds within the field as larger than the base of rova in area. Nor has he sold a watchman's hut that is plastered with clay. Nor has he sold the carob tree that has already been grafted. Nor the mature sycamore tree that has already been pruned. These items are all significant enough to be considered separate properties with their own identity, and they are not included in the sale of the field. And he has not sold the pit, the wine press, or the dovecot that is located within the field, whether they are not currently in use or they are being used. Even if they are currently abandoned, these items are still important enough to be considered separate from the field and are not included in the sale. And the seller must buy himself a path to get to his property. Rebbe Akiva, this is according to Rebbe Akiva. According to Rebbe Akiva, as we discussed earlier, the seller sells with a generous eye, and he sold his right to access the pit or tree, so he has to buy that right back. The Chachamim say he does not need to purchase the path for himself, because according to the Chachamim, he sells with a stingy eye. He knew that he was keeping the tree or the pit, and it would need a path to it. Therefore, he kept the right to access it and did not include it in the sale. The mother of Akiva agrees that if the seller wrote in the bill of sale, I'm selling you the field except for these items, specifically excluding from the sale a tree or a pit that would not have included anyway. So that he does not have to purchase a path for himself. Since he wrote an unnecessary clause, we say that he meant to exclude from the sale the path that he now needs. If he sold one of these items to another and retained the field for himself, Rabbi Akiva says, the buyer does not need to buy a path to the tree because the seller sold the tree generously and the path to access it is included in the sale. The Chacham said that he must buy a path to the tree because the seller of the tree sold stingily and did not include a path in the sale. So, when were all these words stated? Regarding someone who sells a property. Someone who is giving a gift of all these, gives all these items as part of a gift. Someone who gives a field as a gift includes everything in the gift, even important items such as large thickets or reeds or mature sycamore trees. They're all gifted. Similarly, brothers divided an inherited estate. When they acquired a field as part of their share, they acquired all of these along with the field. Likewise, if someone acquires the owner's property with common time without any heirs, once he acquires the field, he acquires all these items along with it. This someone consecrates a field, he has consecrated all these items along with the field itself. Rabbi Shimon says, Sadan Hashikma. Someone who consecrates a field to the Beis Hamikdash has not consecrated any items that would not be included in the sale of the field, except for the grafted carob tree and the mature sycamore trees. According to Rabbi Shimon, the mindset of one who consecrates a field is similar to the mindset of one who sells it. And Rabbi Shimon holds like the Chachamim that a seller sells with a stingy eye. The one difference between a sale and hektish is that if one consecrates a field, all the trees that are growing on the field are mekudesh, because they're deriving nourishment from the field that is now the kuddush. That's all for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay. A wonderful day.